Controlling. All right, we're about to start. Let's go for it. Okay, so we are gonna continue with testing in Rust. We uh we did start out a couple of days ago, yeah, and then I think the second time we looked at that was yesterday, and I think we're gonna continue from let's see where we left off yesterday. I think we um yeah, so it's correct for us to continue from the next section, which is controlling how tests are run. So let's get to it. So I also have like background music playing. Let's see how that is. I don't know. I might also mute it if it's distracting. I'm just trying something different now. Let's see. And I might also just sit like in silence unless like someone's asking something. Yeah. Just the way cargo run would compile the code and then run the result in binary. That's exactly how cargo test will compile the code in test mode and run the resultant test binary. And have the default behavior, which default behavior of the binary is to run it. Yeah, um is to run the test in parallel. Ah, yeah, I think it's something we saw yesterday actually. So um we were looking at this one yesterday. We saw this behavior. So the default behavior of the binary produced by cargo test is to run all the tests in parallel and capture outputs generated during test runs, preventing the output from being displayed and making it easier to read the output related to test results. So basically, I mean, this means that we would normally have, I don't know, print lines would not normally, uh, yeah, because it says here that it will involve behaviors to capture output generated during test runs. Yeah, preventing output from being displayed. Yeah, making it easier to read the output related to the test results. Yeah. Okay, so you can however specify command line options to change the default behavior. So how do we do that? We say, so when you do cargo tests, yeah, we use a separator and then we have help. I mean, this is just to list the options available for help. So the options are documented in this is the Rust language reference test section. What's there? Oh wait, of the Rust book actually. So I think it's, hmm, yeah, looks like it's the Rust book actually. No, this is actually, oh, Rust C book actually. Okay, not, what book is this? Rust compiler. So it's a book for the Rust compiler. Okay. And when it comes to test, I think it was, this is linked. Um, no, I think what do we want to see is test section. It's taking some time to open. Okay, yeah, to test. So what do we have here? So uh, hmm, okay, so by passing the test option, yeah, the compiler will build a creating a special mode to construct an executable that will run the test. The test flag will make the following changes. The crate will be built as a bean, as a binary crate type, forcing it to be an executable. Links the executable with elite test. What is this one? The test harness, okay, that is part of the standard library which handles running the test. It synthesizes a main function which will process command line arguments and run the test. So the new main function will replace any existing main function as the entry point of the executable. Mhm. Okay, so it synthesizes the main function um, that will process command line arguments and run the test. The new main function will replace existing main functions as the entry point of the executable. Though the existing main will still be compiled, it enables test CFG option, which allows your code to use conditional compilation to detect if it's being built as a test. It also enables building of functions annotated with test and benchmarks and bench attributes, which will be run by harness. After the executable is created, we can run it to execute the test and receive a report on what passes and fails. Okay. Yeah. So basically, we can do cargo run and then test, right? So I think so. Basically, what it says is like you can do cargo run and test. It will be um on but wait, is this not the test option? Um, Passing the test option to Rust C. Okay, so it's not cargo actually. It's no test. No input file name given. You should use that's for cargo. Okay. Okay. I think we have to say the test itself that we want to run here. If we use uh yeah, when combining the create raw C will ignore your main function and instead produce a test chapters, blah blah. Um yeah, that's for Rust compile actually. So but it I'm just curious like what we have actually. You have CFG, just configure the compilation. Check CFG, you have crate type. You can actually specify the crate type, which are like pin, lib, rlib, and the rest. For the comparison, you can specify edition. Uh, you can also specify the deployment target. I mean, no, this is okay. Our directory and then test. So exactly. So you can actually specify what was that actually. But you can specify dash dash test. This would build a test harness, and then you can also do that with a target. Select targets triple to build. What does that mean actually? because according to, wait, no, that's not what I want to see. Um, so by passing the test option, this is on Rust C. If I test here, if I Rust compile actually, um, if I specify uh test and then option, so what's the example of what I need to pass to it? Okay, like so. This so this is okay, so this would be the option here now. Oh, this is for cargo actually. Um, okay. I mean, I think it's clear for cargo, we just do cargo test and that's it. Um, I was just interested in how we would do this for um, and it was saying that I needed to specify something. No input file name given. So what so I need to specify the file name um here. Hmm. Okay. I mean, I think it's I mean this is actually about this is targets for the Rust compilation. Yeah. So but I think we are not going into Rust compile right now. We're looking at tests, but I don't want to digress, go too deep into that right now. All right, let's guess stick to the cargo one that we're using. Um we have we can I guess we see that in other sections about Rust compile. Yeah. But however, right now, if we build if we create a project using cargo, we can use cargo test to run the test there, right? It says that we should note that tests must be built with unwind panic strategy. Yeah, I think unwind is the default. Yeah, and this is because all tests run in the same process, um, and they are intended to catch panics, which is not possible with the abort strategy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. With okay, no, which is not possible with the abort strategy. You should see this option for experiment support of the abort strategy by spawning tests in separate processes, which is the default. Um, yeah, unwind is the default. Yeah, abort is a different strategy, but it produces smaller binaries. Yeah, it's not possible for this. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to recall that. Um, how do you pass uh how do you run a test with Rust compile? Passing the test argument, yeah. We can run it directly with Rust compile by using the test flag. Build a harness. So we have this test here, like we have. So we have this. Okay. So that file was telling us about the file. So we specify the Rust the file itself and what um so this tells to include the test harness and then maps to the output binary, and then this would uh execute the tests and run the test. Okay, so yeah, like when you're done compiling, so basically we have no such file where, and yeah, wait. Oh yeah, okay. We created something from cargo, right? So I think we'd have to say no round in the root. Unresolved imports were round. Why does it not find this? I mean, I'm just curious about like um playing around with how to do compilation. I'm getting a bit curious. Unresolved import run. This is main.rs. We have the run dependency, yeah, and we also um wait, we don't need it, right? I thought we needed run earlier, or maybe I guess we don't need it actually, right? Yeah, because we just okay, yeah, we didn't use it anymore. We only um okay. But is that why it was saying unresolved? I didn't. Okay, run in root. He, I think it did the compilation, yeah, because like okay, now so we have a main binary, have a main binary, hmm and if we do cross compile, I think H, right? Yeah, I wanted to see. So we have dash O, which is dash O and file name, which is to write the output to a file name to the file name. Mm, so what would that be for us if we did cross compile test and then this and then we call it what if I say test? Okay, so that would be the name of the uh that would be the name of the file that gets built, right? Okay. And then if I do uh test, yeah. Okay, so the test gets executed. Okay, this is exactly how it will work. Okay. Okay. I mean, good to know the behavior. I mean, it's cool to see the behavior. But what about so? But if we do cargo, um, if we do cargo, um, if we do cargo test, that just runs it, yeah. Yeah. So cargo test would first of all do the build, and then it would. Okay. It's in debug, yeah. Well, okay. So anyway, I think that's okay. That's fine. Let's go on and see. Yeah, I think it's where we are. So let's see what happened here. This is funny, funny. Why is that showing up like that? Whatever. Okay, so let's go on. Mm, so the test attributes. So these are indicated using attributes of free functions. Um, Test attributes are indicated using attributes of free functions. The functions, the following attributes, yeah, the following attributes are used for testing. Yeah, yeah, we also saw that. So like you have the test attribute, um, indicates a function, indicates a function is a test to be run. Yes, bench indicates that a function is marked. It indicates that a function is a benchmark to be run. Benchmarks are currently unstable and only available in nightly channel. Okay. Should panic. We saw that yesterday as well. And then ignore. So this is how you ignore a test. So you pass to say the pass the ignore attribute. Uh, Indicates that the test function will be compiled but not run by default. So we can also do it like this, like with the ignored flag. I think it would be here. Um, no, I see that there. I can see it here. But anyway, okay. So if I wanted to ignore this test that we have here, I would just say ignore. And you can even provide a reason. Okay. Now, so now one ignored. Okay. So you still have the test, but just have ignoring it. Just like you could have the test and then you can also say should panic. Okay. CLI arguments. The leaf test harness has several command line arguments to control its behavior. Note that when running with cargo test, the leaf test CLI arguments once they pass after the dash dash argument instruction between flags for cargo and those for harness. Okay. So basically you can say you have to do it like so. Hmm. Interesting. So um does this mean that we can do um cargo wait. Mm, does it mean that we can do cargo build and something like this and say test maybe expected argument unexpected argument test found. I mean, I was just trying this leap test CLI arguments that they talk about here. Okay. But anyway, no capture would allow no capture should allow my should allow print lines for me, I guess, right? So maybe if I say um print line something from the test case. Mm, oh no, we need to return these, right? So we cannot print here actually. But let's say we can print here. What do we have to then do this? So let's say we can print here. And let's say we remove the ignore attribute from there. And um, when we run this test like this, like so, yes, it's gonna fail. um, it's going to fail, and we also get what we printed. But like, actually, what if we do? I'm curious about the behavior of this. Mhm. We also get it. So what do they mean by the fact that our output gets captured? And then what would not capture do? What does no capture do? So no capture by default was captures all standard output print lines, yeah. It says so the console stays clean. Yes, unless a test fails. Okay, that's true. I think that is the part, that is the clause that we missed, right? So what we're doing, this test fails, so that's why it works like so. I think the test result is supposed to do add 3 and 5. It's supposed to give us uh 8, but we're saying if it's 12, it's okay, yeah. Yeah. So otherwise, I think this is a string. Yeah, otherwise we say here that, yeah, otherwise it should give as an error. Or rather not an error. Yeah, actually it's an error with a string. Maybe we can say failed or incorrect. Yeah. Okay. So this test as is would pass. Yeah. So it works, it would pass. So when it passes, it means that nothing should be printed if by default. Yeah. So if we run our test, we shouldn't get any. We shouldn't. So why the oh no, I think that was the previous one, right? So if you notice the previous one we ran previously, that was it. But now, oh wait, yeah. Mm, I'm just checking for something. So yeah, we do cargo test, and we don't see that there right now because um the test, so it keeps it clean by default. Yeah. So so uh so Rust would the mode in which it compiles the binary and tries to run this now, it keeps the output clean. Yeah. And then these print lines and no print statements and what or whatnot would not be present in the output. It captures all of that, right? It captures that, and our test passes now. But if our test were to fail, so let's say we had this for our test, we had a shoe panic when it really doesn't panic. What should panic must return what now? Okay, must return unit type. I see. Um, okay, and not this. Okay, I want just want this test to fail, so it's easy. We can just say minus, right? So that should be okay to make it fail. In this case, this would get printed. Yeah. So observe that yeah, we do a cargo test, running one test, it works failed. The failures now has something from test case. Okay, so now it gets printed. Okay. So only when so the default way is that when you run a test, um, your print line statements, because I think we were wondering about that yesterday, why they were not being printed. I mean, they were not printed in some cases and they were for others, right? So it's just because by default, prints and all and output statements would not be outputted to the standard output when you run your tests. Only when they fail. When they fail is when the tests fail, that's when those things just get printed out. Mm. But so assuming that our test succeeds, yeah, and we run this test now with no capture, which is not a command for library, but sorry, for cargo, but for the library, right? How's that called? It's called for the leak test, right? So we have to pass the argument flag twice there here, and then say no capture here now, and we see it. So this is where we want the whatever we print to be displayed. Okay, cool. I think that's fine. Now filters. Okay, well, no, I think yeah, this is the Rust. No, wait, hold on. I think we is this where we wanna yeah, we were just checking this from here actually. What's because there was looking at these options, right? Uh from the Rust C book, yeah, Rust compile book where we were looking at how these things work. Okay. Mm, I don't know if I think we shouldn't bother getting into that level of detail right now. We don't need it just yet. So if we, yeah, when I mean, I think later on we can, if we need to do anything on these, we can reference them. But right now, I think we should stick to this. So let's continue. So running tests in parallel or consecutively. When you run multiple tests by default, they run in parallel using threads, meaning they finish running faster and you get feedback quicker. Okay. And the reason for that is because the tests are running at the same time. You must make sure your tests don't depend on each other. That's standard, right? That's normal. So we must make sure our tests don't depend on each other. Um, yeah, or on any shared state, including a shared environment, such as the current working directory or environment variables. Okay. For example, say each of your tests runs some code. Wait, I don't even know. That's true. We should check this. 1 second. Yeah, okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Um, so how does this work here? It says, so for example, say each of your tests runs some code that creates a file on a disk named test output and writes some data to that file. Then each test reads the data in that file and asserts that the file contains a particular value, mhm, which is different in each test because the test runs. So wait, let's take it again. So for example, say each of the tests run some code that creates a file on the disk named that, yeah, and writes some data to that file. Then each test, um, yeah, then each test reads the data in that file and asserts that the file contains a particular value, which is different in each test. So because the tests run at the same time, one test might override the file, yes. And in the time between the other tests, yeah, the second test will fail not because the code is incorrect, but because the tests have interfered with each other, side effects, yeah, while running in parallel. One solution is to make sure each test writes to a different file. Another solution is to run the tests one at a time. If you don't want to run the test in parallel, or if you want more fine-grained control over the number of threads used, you can send the test threads flag. Okay, so in our case, we have one test. And let us add another case now to say, mm, it panics. Yeah. Mm, should return unit type, right? And then, wait, actually, it doesn't panic. Um, let's see. So let result be that, yeah. And if result is greater than uh, 8, then you should panic. Yep. And now we can test should panic or it panics um, by doing by doing add and 3 and 9, yeah, and saying should panic. What is this here? Expected type found. This I don't get. What do you mean? Oh wait. Oh, add. What does add return? Add. Okay, add returns a value actually, right? So are we missing something here? Expected type. Um, Normally, like we don't need to return any types for the test, do we? Like it would just be unit type. That's it. So function should panic or like panics or whatever it is. This would be unit type by default, right? And uh, I don't know what's wrong here actually. I actually cannot see what's wrong with this one. Let's just write it again. Okay, so I have a syntax error. I think we're missing something. Expected type. I don't know. Okay. So it has to have a type. Is that it? I think we're written lots of tests. Is it? I actually don't remember. But so if we return unit type, it should be fine then. Yeah. Okay. So basically, if we return unit type, um, oh, I see. But we tried to return unit type, so but it wasn't giving us whatever. Okay. Unused variable. That's okay. I think we just needed earlier when we were having that issue, we just needed to do something like wait, can we do this? Yeah, we can. It says it's unneeded, but I did that earlier and you were still okay, so something was wrong. It wasn't, I guess, some weird issue. Okay, whatever. So now we have this, and this is telling us about the else clause, and that's fine. And I think that is yeah, else it should return a result to us, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so we have two cases now. I think it's the reason why it was complaining about that part. So it said now it says this is unneeded. Okay, whatever. Let's go on. So now we can run our test and specify what was that called? Test threads, yeah. But if we run it not normally like so, um it works, right? So that both tests work, but they are executed in parallel. It works, I should panic. Um, yeah. And if we do this test threads, I guess, right? Is it test dash threads? Yeah. Okay, that's all we needed to do. That's fine. So at least we know. We know we can set that there. Running the test will take longer. But we don't know, it's not noticeable, right? We can't even see. Anyway, because our test doesn't, unless we try to make it take some time, like deliberately, right? So, but yeah, I'll make the thread sleep for some. Um, Interesting. Oh yeah, I think we even see it, right? Because like when we do cargo test here, look, when we have the first time we run it here, and this one, when we do cargo test here, uh, so it finished. This is the compile, and then it finished. Is this the compile that it's talking about here? But anyway, I think I'm not sure. Wait, I need to check what. Wait, let's find out. Oh wait, oh like better like so. Um, this log is it about the test run? No, because actually we have this one finished. This is where the test finished. Yeah, about compile. Yeah. Yeah, it's about compilation. And then this is actually about the test run itself. Yep. So we have, and then this one, the test result is this finished, and this should be the about the test run, just or execution itself. Okay, so let's continue. So we set the number of tests to one, telling the program number of threads to one, telling the program not to use any parallelism. Running the tests using one thread will take longer, and running them in parallel, but the tests won't interfere with each other in the shared state. Now, showing function output. By default, if a test passes, the a Rust test library captures anything printed to standard output. For example, wait, hold on. By default, if a test passes, Rust test library captures anything printed to standard output. For example, if we call print line in a test and the test passes, we won't see print line exactly output in the terminal. We'll only see the line indicated that the test passed. If a test fails, we'll see whatever was printed to the standard output with the rest of the failure message. Yeah, we already saw that before. Yeah. As an example, this listing here, has a city function that prints the value of its parameter and returns 10. So print and return, yeah, and as well as a test that passes and a test that fails. Yeah. So the way it is right now, let's just look at it. The way it looks right now, the way it is right now, um, this test will pass, and this test will fail. When we run, this test will fail. So we would see this line. I got the value. I got the value 8. Yeah, I got the value 8. What we're gonna see because it fails. Yeah. So exactly, I got the value 8. What we'll see. Run this test. We'll see the final output. Yeah, and then we see why it failed. Note that nowhere in this output do we see I got the value 4, which is printed when the test that passes run. The output has been captured. The output from the test that failed, which is I got the value 8, appears in the section of the test summary output, which also shows the case of the failure of the test failure. Yeah. Okay. So continue. Note that I think we already saw this part. Yes, okay. If we wanted to print values for passing, if we want to print values for passing tests as well, we can tell us to show the output by doing, wait, hold on. We can tell us to show the output of successful tests with show output. Okay. But I thought we could also do this with what does no capture do? Is it not the same thing? Show output. So if you do show output, then you have um I got the value uh for for this one, success, and the failure will also have that one show output. So let's try this out and see. Because for me, I'm like, we have two things now. We have show output and we have, I think that function was print and show, something like that, right? So we have like a um print and show function that takes a value U8 and returns um the print and show was called, right? Print and return, yeah. Print and return, and then it should give you back the value, yeah. So it should just do a print line. Um, okay, I got a another value, yeah, a. That's it, and it should return, yeah, it should return the value here. Meanwhile, I'm just going to get rid of this one. It's not needed anymore. And now in our test, uh, we're going to have a new test for let's have a test case for succeed, right? Where it succeeds, right? Yeah. So a function. Oh wait, no, hold on. What am I doing here? Okay, I have a function that says, I don't know, uh should pass, yeah, something like should pass, that's fine. And this should give us a yeah, okay. And this should do a you should just call print and return, passing the value, uh passing the value there. I think what was there was a condition they used. Okay, and they did assert, right? Okay. Um, let's just say let's give it a value. This should do this, and then yeah, it should return. So we can say let result be that, and then we can do an assert. Um, I said equal, and then we can say result is 8. Yeah. So this should we say this is just a regular test. Just gonna copy this. Yeah. Um, I'm just gonna say it should fail, and this should be 10. And yeah, and then it should just fail. That's it. Okay. Now my issue is that there are two ways to do this. So we saw first of all that we can do a cargo test, and we can say, I mean, let's just do a cargo test first. What we expect, because is that we would get we expect that we would have uh I got a I got a 10 is what we see. That's the only thing we see, right? So that's what we expect to see. Yeah, because there's one failure. So it's one failure. So we did cargo test from here. It ran two tests, one passed, one failed, and then we see I got a 10. That's it. That's how it should be. And we see the assertion for the left, right, and stuff. Yeah, that's okay. Now, if we run this again with cargo test and we pass we do it pass a no capture, what would happen? So from no capture, still the same thing. So now you're seeing, so we see running two tests. I got a 10 and I got an 8. Yeah. So that's what, so we see them printed. And after that, we see the one that panicked and where it failed and whatnot. Yeah. And then what happens when we run this with cargo test show output? We have we have the successes. Hmm. Okay, okay. So I think it's the format that is different, right? So we have the successes, and now we have the ones that succeeded and the test and the print lines that go with them, right? Well, I mean, what they print as standard output. We see I got an 8, all right, an 8, and it tells us what tests that succeeded. Now the failures and their standard output. Okay, and then the failures. It's just the it's just the way that it does that. Okay, because you see this, no capture will just like print them right away. Okay. Okay. I think I get the difference, right? Between the two of them. Sorry, show output, not show capture. So real capture disables the output capturing mechanism entirely. They're shown immediately. That's what we saw, yeah. The standard output, standard errors, they're shown immediately, regardless of whether the test passes or fails. Yep. Now show output is a newer option. Okay, so it's past the harness. It preserves the default capture behavior, but after each test, the capture output is displayed. That's exactly what we saw, yeah. It's just like when it gets showed. Okay. So the result is that you'd still get clean test output, test run in order, result group nicely, but you also see logs printed after each. Okay, this is the key difference, yeah. So I think it'll be cool to. So what you want to really use is show output, yeah. Okay, let's continue. And okay, now we've seen how the show output behaves. Returning a subset of tests by name. Sometimes running a test suite can take a very long time. If you're working on a particular area, working on code in a particular area, you might want to run only tests pertaining to that code. Yes, we see that a lot. You can choose which test to run by passing cargo test and the name or names of the test you want to run as an argument. Okay, so how do you do that? What if we wanted to run? To demonstrate, want to run a subset of tests. We will first create three tests. Now we have for our add to function. These are the three tests for add to. And if we run this, we'll see that they run in parallel, yes. And now to run a single test, you just put the test name 100. That's it. Okay. Only the test with the name 100 run. The other two tests did not match the name. Um, and then we see two filtered out. Okay, at the end. We can specify the names of multiple tests this way. Only the first value given to cargo test will be used. Okay, but there is a way to run multiple tests. Okay, so let's filter multiple. How do we do that? We can specify part of a test name and any test whose name matches that will be run. For example, if we say add, we can run those two by running cargo test add. Wait, we have add two, add three. Is it done by starts with? How does it do the match? Is it starts or it contains? Mm, okay, wait, it says contains actually, because two of our test names contain add. This command run all tests with the add in the name and filter out the test name 100, okay? Also note that the module in which a test appears becomes part of the test name. So we can run all the tests in a module by filtering on the module's name. Wait, hold on. The module in which a test appears. So the module in which a test appears, do you mean to say like tests now? Yeah, I guess. I mean, we have to try it out now and see. Mm. Okay, let's try this out and see. So we have we have two tests now, two test cases now. Uh, if we if we do a cargo test and we pass the name of one, should wait, should pass. Come on, should pass. It's just running should pass. So it says one filtered out. Yep. Now let's do a cargo test and then let's say should. Yeah, one pass, one failed. I mean, we know that it's gonna fail, right? That's what we wanted. That's how our test behaves. Our test behaves like this normally, right? So and it says zero filtered out, so nothing is filtered out. And should let's see, let's even see how that works. And here, do we see anything special? Cargo test should. It doesn't tell us that it's doing anything special here. It just says running two tests, should pass, should fail. Okay, so that's one way we can know what's happening, and then we see we check what's been filtered. All right. Okay. Now we talked about the model. So let's see, say the model name is part of it, right? So what that means we can do a cargo test. Can we say test? Yes, we can. It ran the two tests. So now what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna add another test module, another module for test. Um, okay, and then let's call this module play, just for whatever reason. And then I'm still just gonna do use super, and then let's add a case for uh should do nothing, whatever, like just add a random test, yeah. And I can just get this test just get it here. It's not really not doing nothing, or it's not really doing nothing, but this is okay. And by the way, I want this to stop filling, so I'm just gonna say 8 here. Okay, so when I do when I do cargo test, I expect uh 3 tests to be running, yes. When I do cargo test and I say play, it should run the only the tests in play module. Exactly. Okay, that's how it works. And then 2 are filtered out. Okay, we go on to the next thing. So we can ignore some tests unless specifically requested. Sometimes a few specific tests can be very time consuming to execute. So you might want to exclude them during most runs of cargo test. Rather than listing as arguments all tests you don't want to run, you can instead annotate yeah, the time consuming ones um, using the ignore attribute to exclude them as shown here. I think we already saw this, yeah? Okay, unless specifically ignore something unless specifically requested. So yeah, we can do this. We saw this already, yeah? After test, we add the ignore. Yeah, I think we already saw that. Ignore attributes bind to the test we want to exclude. Now, when we run our test, it works, runs, but expensive test doesn't. Yeah, I think we saw that. And it will say that it was ignored, not filtered out. It will be ignored like this here. Yep. Okay. Expensive test function is listed as ignored. If we want to run only the ignored tests, we can do so. You can actually run only the ignored tests. Nice. Um, I think. cargo is really I would say complete, but it has most of the things already. Let's just see what ignore. Yeah. And you got yeah, we saw that you can pass a reason. Yeah. And then we'll come back to whatever. Now we can say cargo test. But now this is one for the library. It's not the cargo command option. So we have to say like so. Yeah, so two filtered out. It's running, should fail, which is this one. Okay, but wait, what about the reason we passed to it? Yeah, the reason we passed to it now will not would not be shown anywhere here, right? Yeah. Yeah, it won't be shown anywhere here. Um, 1 second. All right. I think I'll end the stream here. I need to check something. I'll end it right now here, and maybe we'll continue tomorrow or later, depending on how I feel. All right. Have a good evening.